I have no credits for food. My body is the only currency I have. You can use it for one meal, human.
The air smelled like oxidized metal and engine coolant. Overhead, neon signs flickered half-lit across broken facades, casting a pale magenta glow over the fractured ferrocrete lanes. Wind pushed loose papers and brittle trash through the shadows. The edges of the colony's city, what was left of it, felt less like civilization and more like the bones of a place no one had tried to fix. Erinya sat with her back to a cracked ration kiosk, legs folded awkwardly beneath her, her bare feet curled against the cold concrete. Her skin, pale blue with a faint silver sheen, looked almost gray in the dying light. Her body was narrow, her joints sharp, not by design but from prolonged hunger. The canvas wrap she wore was frayed at every edge, held together by a strap that bit in her left shoulder. It left her other shoulder bare, along with her ribs and a sliver of her lower stomach. The skirt hung in strips, uneven, ending just above her thighs. Once, it had been worn for attention. Now it was just what remained. She hadn't eaten in 72 hours. She kept count, not because it mattered to anyone else, but because it helped her stay focused. Every moment without food made her thoughts slower. Her heartbeat felt light, fluttery, weak. She had to keep still to keep her vision from going black. She didn't belong here, not originally. The Arinyi, her people, had been a long-distance diplomatic race, sent as peace brokers and trade officials. Erinya had been raised in a minor satellite station of the now-defunct Dlyran Concord. Her training was academic, languages, etiquette, cultural protocol. None of that mattered anymore. The Arinyi had lost their diplomatic standing years ago. Their trade routes were absorbed, their social structures dissolved, their citizenship IDs invalidated. Now, she was nothing. No name in the system, no work authorization, no food stamps, just a body. One she had learned could sometimes buy her enough to get through a day. But not today, not yet. She pressed herself against the kiosk wall, watching boots and feet pass by. No one looked down, no one ever did. Her throat was too dry to speak loudly. So she waited for someone who didn't walk fast, who didn't glance away, who maybe didn't look like he'd enjoy hurting her. It was almost dark when she saw him. Roland Thorne moved with slow purpose. He wasn't like the military patrols or the freelance engineers that drifted in and out of the ruins. His clothes were simple: dark woven pants, a neutral gray thermal shirt, a heavy synth fiber shawl over one shoulder, dust-covered boots. No weapons, no armor, just a worn data case strapped to his side. He paused near the ration stall, scanning the food selection silently. His eyes were tired, not bloodshot or wild, just worn down, measured. It was how he carried himself that made her speak. Please. The word cracked as it left her throat. He didn't turn. She forced herself to push off the wall, stepping closer, using what little strength she had to block his path. I have no credits for food, she said, voice hoarse but steady. My body is the only currency I have left. You can use it if you want. Just, please, let me eat first. Her heart raced. Every time she made an offer like that, it felt like a coin toss. Some men smirked and took what they wanted. Others called her trash and shoved her aside. Some didn't even reply, just walked past. This man didn't react at all. Not right away. Roland turned his head. His eyes met hers. They weren't disgusted. They weren't interested. They weren't blank. They were just watching. He studied her face, the cracked lips, sunken cheeks, the trembling hand she tried to hide. She looked back, not pleading anymore, just bracing. Whatever he chose to do, she'd survive it. Or she wouldn't. But Roland didn't speak. He shifted his weight, stepped around her, and approached the food stall. He scanned his ID chip, an actual registered citizen ID, not a fake one. That surprised her. Few with real credentials walked this part of the colony. He bought 2 full ration packs. Hot ones. When he returned, he didn't hand them to her. He sat, right on the ground, legs crossed. No rush. Then he placed the tray down between them. She stared at it, blinking. You're not going to? She asked. He shook his head. No. Eat. Her hands trembled as she reached out. The heat of the food almost burned her skin, She'd gone too long without warmth. She wolfed the first pack down in less than a minute. Chewed too fast. Choked once. Tears welled in her eyes as she swallowed again and again. He didn't comment. Didn't flinch when broth spilled on her legs. Didn't ask her name. He just waited. The second pack went slower. She paced herself, now aware of how messy she must look. Shame caught up quickly once hunger had a moment to rest. When it was done, she wiped her mouth with the edge of her wrap, then started to stand. "I'll go," she murmured. He stopped her with just a look. Not forceful, not kind, just steady. "You don't have to. Not tonight." She hesitated. "You want something else?" "No," he said plainly. "You need to sleep. That's all." She didn't understand. A man bought her a hot meal, sat on the ground like she wasn't dirt, and now offered shelter with nothing in return? That didn't happen here. Not on Nyrith 9. Not in this part of the city. "Why?" she asked. Rollins' jaw tightened. He looked past her toward the edge of the street. "Because someone should." That answer made her feel smaller than any insult. She didn't know how to reply. She followed him. Rollins' place was 3 blocks off the main lane. An old relay center gutted and restructured with scrap partitions and a recycled solar cell. The lock was physical, a latch, not digital. He stepped in first, leaving the door cracked behind him. The room was small, low ceiling, one cot, a heat vent humming near the corner. Storage crates stacked to divide the space, some filled with data cores, others with clothes and sterilized parts. No furniture, just utility. "Cot's yours," he said. "Blankets clean, water's filtered. Don't break the pump." He crouched by the heating vent, rolled out a thin sleeping mat, and began sorting a stack of paper tags, ruined registry slips, most of them outdated. Irenia hovered by the door. She felt something strange. Not fear, not shame. She felt safe. But that made her nervous. It didn't feel earned. "Do you live here alone?" she asked softly. He nodded once. "I like quiet." He didn't ask her to explain where she came from. Didn't ask why she was here. Didn't offer his name. He just gave her space and let the silence breathe. When she finally stepped to the cot, her knees buckled. He stood before she hit the floor, caught her by the elbow. His touch was firm but careful. He guided her to sit. "You okay?" She nodded, not trusting her voice. He handed her a folded cloth. She wiped her face. Then he gave her the blanket. She lay down, clutching it around her, curled into a tight ball like a cornered animal. Rollin turned away, returned to his mat. The lights dimmed automatically. Her breathing slowed. Her hands stopped shaking. And though she didn't know his name yet, or why he'd helped her, or what would happen next, for the first time in months, Irenia closed her eyes without planning an escape route. Across the room, Rollin exhaled, slow and deep, like he was waiting to feel regret. It didn't come. He didn't know what her story was. Didn't need to. He just knew one thing. He couldn't walk past her like everyone else had. Not again. Not this time. And neither of them said another word that night. The faint hum of the solar-powered heater filled the small shelter. The walls barely kept the wind out, but inside it was warm enough to sleep without shivering. For hours, the only movement came from the thermal vent where a slight breeze stirred the edge of the hanging cloth that divided the cot from the rest of the room. Irenia woke slowly. For a moment, she didn't know where she was. The warmth, the quiet, it confused her. Her instincts pulled her up fast. Her hands braced for recoil, her breath hitched, eyes wide. No one was looming over her. No hands grabbing at her. No breath in her ear. Just fabric still wrapped around her. A cot beneath her spine. A room with no shouting. No other voices. She blinked. It was still dark out, or maybe early. Time on Nyrith. 9 was hard to track. The sky always looked the same through the pollution haze. She turned her head. Rollin was sitting near the heater, legs folded, awake. He wasn't watching her. He was reviewing something projected from a small portable data pad. Soft blue lines blinked across his face. Readouts, symbols she didn't understand. He looked tired but focused. His jaw had dark stubble. His clothes were the same as the night before. No fresh creases, no sign he'd slept. He was just still. She cleared her throat. Lightly. He looked up. "Hey," he said quietly. She nodded. "You stayed awake? Didn't feel like sleeping." You were afraid I'd rob you? He raised an eyebrow. Didn't seem like you had space to carry anything. She paused, then gave a dry, breathy chuckle. Fair. He didn't smile. Not cold, just matter of fact. Are you hungry? She hesitated, then nodded. Yes, but I'll leave if you want me to. I'm not trying to move in. I didn't say you had to leave. He stood slowly, his knees stiff from sitting too long, and walked to the back of the room. A basic hot plate sat on a counter beside a sealed ration box. He opened it, pulled a meal pack, and started heating it. She watched him cautious, not fearful anymore, curious. What is this place? She asked. This room. Old relay station. I repurposed it. Got registry clearance. You have registry? He nodded. Freelance. I archive abandoned records. Infrastructure layouts, housing logs, old shipment manifests. Someone's got to clean up the mess. You work for the council? No, he said quickly. I just send reports. They never reply. She pushed herself upright, adjusting the blanket over her chest. Her legs still felt weak, but better than yesterday. Her stomach had stopped cramping. The food had stayed down. Why are you really here? She asked. You don't look like you belong in a place like this. Neither do you, he replied. That shut her up for a second. He brought the heated meal over, handed it to her with a plastic fork. She took it, slower this time, trying not to look desperate as the scent hit her. She ate in smaller bites, still fast, but careful now. He didn't leave. He sat across from her, leaning against the storage crates. The heat from the vent created a soft warmth between them. Erinya swallowed, then asked the question that had been sitting in her chest since last night. Why did you help me? He didn't answer immediately. He looked at the wall, then back at her. I've seen a lot of people ignore others, he said. Walk past like they're already dead. One day I realized I was doing it too. So I stopped. Her brow creased. That's it. I didn't plan to fix anything. I just didn't want to step over another body. She nodded. She understood that more than she wanted to admit. I thought you'd want something in return, she said. I know. I still think maybe you will. He looked at her then. Not angry, not offended, just tired. You could go anytime, he said. She didn't reply, because he meant it, and that was harder to deal with than if he'd lied. She looked down at her food. You didn't ask my name, she said. He tilted his head. Didn't want to make it feel like you owed me. She nodded slowly. It's Erinya. He blinked once. Processing, then nodded. Rollin. She smiled faintly. The first one that wasn't guarded or forced. They ate the rest in silence. When she finished, she placed the empty tray aside and folded her hands in her lap. Do you have clothes? She asked. Something I could wear that isn't. She gestured at the ripped wrap barely clinging to her. He stood and rummaged through a crate, pulled out a soft linen shirt, oversized, light gray, and handed it over. She took it gently, inspecting it. No stains. Smelled faintly of cleaner and old air. She turned her back to him and changed. The shirt hung low over her hips. Her legs were bare, but she didn't feel cold. She sat back on the cot, folded the blanket over her lap. You were a diplomat, weren't you? Rollins said quietly. She looked at him. How'd you guess? You speak too clearly for someone raised here. She smirked. I was trained to talk. Doesn't help much when nobody's listening. He tapped a few commands into the data pad and let the projection fade. The room dimmed further, settling into a dull glow from the heater vent. You're not safe outside, he said. You know that. I've never been safe, she said softly. But I'm used to it. He nodded slowly. You can stay here, if you want. She looked down, thought about what that meant. No trade, no bargain, just stay. Her body relaxed before her mind could catch up. All right, she said. She lay back down, this time not curled up, just resting. The shirt was warm. The cot no longer felt like borrowed space. Rollin didn't press her for answers, but she could feel the shift in him, like he was preparing for something, or dreading it. She watched him work quietly at the registry desk. His hands were steady. His jaw clenched now, and then like he was thinking about things he didn't want to say. She didn't ask, but she would eventually. For now, she closed her eyes, still listening, still uncertain, but not afraid. Not tonight. The following morning arrived without sunlight. On Nyrith, 9, Morning looked no different than night, just a slight dimming of the street glows and a shift in air pressure that told machines to switch cycles. Erinya stirred beneath the blanket, slower this time, not from fear but stiffness. Her body had started adjusting to the idea that it wouldn't have to run or beg that day. Roland was already up. She could hear him moving on the other side of the makeshift divider, his boots scraping the floor, the soft clatter of containers being opened and sorted. She blinked slowly, taking in the little details. The way his space was arranged without clutter, how everything had a purpose, but nothing felt sterile. She sat up, the oversized shirt slipping off one shoulder. She tugged it back into place before stepping out from behind the curtain. He noticed her, but didn't stop working. "You slept." She nodded. "All the way through." "You were talking in your sleep," he said without looking over. That made her freeze. "What did I say?" "Mostly names. Maybe memories. Nothing clear." She let out a slow breath. "Good." She walked barefoot toward the heater. The floor was cold, even inside. She sat down by the vent, curling her legs under the shirt. "Do you keep logs of everyone who used to live here?" she asked, her voice quieter now. Roland looked at her, mildly surprised. "You mean in this district?" She nodded. "I do. Or try to. A lot of data is corrupted. Names, dates, biometric keys, all fractured. Sometimes I can cross-reference with shipment records or old council memos." "Could you look for someone?" she asked carefully. He paused, lowering the panel he had been reviewing. "Who?" "My sister," Irenia said. "She was taken years ago, before everything collapsed. I think she might have ended up on this colony. But I never found her." She didn't cry. She had no tears left for that. But her voice cracked just slightly. Roland didn't ask follow-up questions. He simply nodded once. "What's her name?" "Cyril." He committed it to memory. Noted the spelling. "I'll search." No promises. "I know." They sat in silence after that. She didn't press. He didn't reassure her. But something about his response, direct, quiet, with no false hope, made her shoulders relax. Later, while she helped clean the storage crates without being asked, she noticed the absence of something. "You don't keep any photos." He glanced over. "No." "Why?" "No one looks at them anymore. They're just faces that aren't coming back." "Still," she said, wiping down a heat-score ration tray. "You're not like most people here." "Neither are you." She gave a short, bitter smile. "I used to think that made me valuable." She didn't expect him to respond, but he did. "You still are," he said. She looked at him, searching for sarcasm. Found none. She returned to cleaning, quiet. After they finished sorting the crates, Roland unlocked a side drawer and handed her a set of indoor pants. Simple, soft, recycled fabric. "These should fit better than a shirt and a blanket," he said. "Thank you," she replied. She didn't say more, but she changed as soon as he gave her space. When she stepped out again, she looked different. Still thin, still tired, but more like someone who had a home to return to, even if it was temporary. As the day continued, she noticed things she hadn't before. Roland checked the outside street every few hours. Not paranoid, but cautious. His data work was real, but he didn't use network connections. Everything was manual, stored locally. She saw no signs of a communicator, no contact with anyone. "Do you live like this all the time?" she asked over a meal later that afternoon. "Yes." "Why?" "Noise gets people killed. Attention draws problems." "You mean slavers?" He shook his head. "No, not anymore. I mean neighbors. The ones who assume, judge, and report out of habit. I avoid giving them something to talk about." Irenia's expression tightened. "They saw me outside, on the ground. They also saw you follow me in." She looked down at the half-eaten food. "So they're assuming the usual." He didn't answer. He didn't have to. "Do you care?" she asked quietly. "I used to, and now I just want peace." She set her fork down. "I'm going to be a problem for that, aren't I?" Roland looked at her. This time longer, more direct. "Only if you leave before you're ready," he said. She didn't know what to say to that, so she nodded and kept eating. The night fell again, though the light barely changed. Roland went about his work, sorting registry data, recording observations, repairing a busted ID scanner. She watched him, try to understand what kind of man could live in silence like this, helping someone like her without wanting anything. Later, she asked the question that had been gnawing at her since the second nightfall. Who did you lose? Roland didn't look up. What makes you think I lost someone? You don't keep photos. You don't talk much. You don't flinch when people cry in their sleep. He set down the scanner. My brother. Engineering crew on Marin 5. Their dome collapsed. 10 workers inside. Nothing to recover. Arinya said, nothing for a while. Then, softly, I'm sorry. He gave a faint nod. That's why you do this. Stay quiet. Fix dead data. Help people you don't know. I can't fix the collapse, he said, but I can stop walking past people who are falling. Her breath caught in her chest. She looked away so he wouldn't see it. They didn't speak for the rest of the night, but the silence wasn't hollow anymore. It was shared, and for the first time in years, Arinya didn't plan an exit. She stayed, not just in the room, but with him, present, still, watching the man who didn't touch her, didn't ask, didn't judge, only made space. Space she hadn't known how badly she needed. Arinya moved quietly through the small space the next morning, bare feet padding over the cool concrete floor as she folded the blanket she'd slept under. She handled it carefully, almost reverently, as if it wasn't just fabric, but proof that someone had given her something without taking first. Roland was already dressed. He stood at the counter, sleeves rolled up, heating water for a wash basin. The routine was quiet, precise, and unhurried. He didn't speak when she woke, but he acknowledged her with a subtle glance, enough to show he noticed her presence, and that he expected nothing from it. She took that as permission to breathe. He pushed the basin slightly toward her. It's warm, for your face, or hair, whatever you need. Her fingers twitched at the offer. She hadn't bathed properly in weeks. Her scalp itched. Her skin felt layered with city dust and exhaustion. But it was hard to accept kindness without suspicion. Still, she nodded. Thank you. She took the cloth he handed her, dipped it, and slowly began wiping the grime from her face. Then her neck, then down her arms. The water turned murky quickly. She washed her hands twice. You can use the basin fully. I'll step out, Rollins said simply, already grabbing his jacket. I need to check the East Lane relay anyway. She paused, cloth still in hand. You trust me alone in here? He shrugged. I don't keep anything worth stealing. She hesitated again, but then gave a faint smirk. I might take the blanket. You be the first who earned it. He stepped out. She waited until the door shut, then stood silently in the middle of the room. A long breath escaped her lips. Alone, but not abandoned. For once, not kicked out. She removed the oversized shirt carefully, folding it, and stepped into the wash space with the basin. The warmth of the water against her skin nearly made her knees buckle. She didn't cry. She just washed, methodically, her arms, shoulders back, then her legs, her feet. She twisted her long white lavender hair and soaked the ends before brushing them out with her fingers. The small mirror hanging crooked over the vent showed her a face she barely recognized. Cleaner, less hollow, but still guarded. She dried off, dressed again in the linen shirt and soft pants, and took time to neatly fold the cloth she'd used. That mattered. The quiet meant something here. When Rollin returned, he didn't comment. He noticed the basin had been emptied and cleaned. The cot straightened. She was sitting near the heater with her knees pulled up, a silent, almost invisible presence in the corner of the room. I'm going to the old data silo near the tram station, he said, adjusting his gear. It's not far. Half an hour walk. I'll be gone a while. I'll stay here, she said, no longer asking for permission. Good. He slung a small satchel across his back. Just before opening the door, he paused. If you need anything, food, water, another blanket, take it. You don't have to wait. She nodded. When the door shut again, silence returned, but it didn't feel empty. She stood, this time moving slowly through the room with the careful curiosity of someone not trespassing, but still not fully belonging. Her fingers grazed over the surfaces. She didn't touch his tools. She didn't open his drawers. But she paused near his data terminal. A small tag sat clipped to the console. It had her name on it. Arinya. Query. Cyril. Passenger logs. Arrival records. 4 to 7 cycles prior. She sat down slowly and stared at it. Her chest tightened. She hadn't expected him to actually begin searching. She'd assumed her story would be forgotten the moment her plate was empty. But he hadn't forgotten. The terminal was locked behind a simple access code. She didn't try to open it. She just sat there for a long time, fingers curled in her lap, teeth pressed to her lower lip. When Rollin returned 2 hours later, he found her where he'd left her, only now seated beside the console, staring at it like it held the universe. "You're already searching for her," she said without looking up. "Yes. You didn't ask for a picture. I figured if I find anything, you'll know." She finally turned to him. "I haven't talked to anyone who's cared in years." "Why would you?" "I don't know," he said honestly. "Maybe because it's easier to care for someone who doesn't ask for much." That hurt more than she expected. She looked away, ashamed. "I'm not trying to be easy," she said. "I didn't say you were." She sat back on the cot. He unpacked a ration tray and placed it near her, then took his usual seat near the vent. They ate in silence for a while. Then, unprompted, she asked, "Do you ever get lonely?" He didn't answer right away. She wondered if he would answer at all. "Not really," he finally said. "I used to, before I realized most people just bring noise with them, not company." She picked at her food. "And me? What do I bring?" He looked at her carefully. "You bring something quiet, but not empty." She stared at him for a long moment. "That's the nicest thing anyone said to me since my station fell." She didn't ask him to explain what he meant. She didn't offer thanks, but she didn't look away from him either. That night, she waited longer before going to sleep. She watched him as he filed data entries, noticed the small, tired movements in his hands, the occasional sigh when a sector file failed to load. Eventually, he paused and rubbed his face. "You should rest," he said, not looking over. "I will." But she didn't move toward the cot yet. She walked over, slowly, and sat across from him. "I used to think," she said quietly, "that if I gave someone everything, my body, my obedience, my silence, they'd let me stay." He didn't respond. "And now you're offering me a place without asking for any of that." The heater clicked off just after third cycle. The room cooled fast. Irenia stirred beneath the blanket, not from cold, but from the awareness that Rollin hadn't gone to sleep. She could hear him pacing. Not often, just once or twice every 20 minutes. Bare feet over concrete. No muttering, no sighs, just movement. He'd turned off the lights, left the glow of a data pad dimmed in the corner, but she could still see the outline of him standing at the partition, hands on the edge of the shelf, staring down at some unscanned registry chip. She sat up. "You don't sleep," she said softly. He didn't flinch, didn't even turn. "Sometimes I do," he replied. "Just not when it's quiet like this." She waited. The silence thickened. Not tense, just full. "Is it because I'm here?" she asked. He shook his head. "It's because I'm used to being alone, and now I'm not." She pushed the blanket aside, stood, and crossed to the heater. Her arms wrapped across her waist beneath the oversized shirt, not for modesty, but for grounding. "You don't seem like someone who minds company," she said. "I don't mind you," he answered. That paused her. He turned then, just slightly. His eyes were tired, but focused on her. "You're different from the people I've seen come and go in this district," he said. "You don't make noise. You don't try to take up space." She gave a quiet breath. "That's not because I'm polite. It's because I still feel like I could be thrown out at any second." He nodded. "I know." She leaned back against the wall near the vent, sitting down slowly. Her knees pulled up beneath the linen shirt. Her voice was steady now. Her words no longer coded in desperation, just memory. "There was a man once," she said. "He gave me food, then gave me a room, said I could stay. He even smiled when I said thank you." She paused, watched his face. 3 nights in, he locked the door from the outside. Told me I'd cost him too much to let me leave without paying him back. Rollin's jaw moved slightly. His arms crossed, but not defensively, more like he was containing something. "Did you get out?" "Yes," she said. "Eventually." She didn't explain how, and he didn't ask. She looked at the floor. "I've never stayed in one place more than 5 days since." Rollin nodded once. "This is day 4. A flicker of tension passed through her chest. "I know." He stepped closer. Not much, just enough to close the air between them. "You're not him," she added, voice low. but my body hasn't caught up to that yet. He crouched in, careful, keeping space. You can leave tomorrow, he said. If you need to. She met his eyes. I don't want to. A long beat passed. He stood, walked to the shelf, opened a side drawer, returned with a folded bundle of cloth. I don't have much, he said, setting it beside her. But it's clean. Something warmer than that shirt if you want it. She picked it up slowly. A long-sleeved wrap, worn but soft, with simple fasteners and heavier fabric around the shoulders. She pulled it over her head without leaving the floor. It fit loosely, but didn't hang off her like a borrowed disguise. When she looked up again, she spoke carefully. Do you want me to leave? No. Do you want me to stay? He answered without hesitation. Yes. Her stomach tightened, not from fear, from disbelief. I don't know how to exist like that, without giving something. You already have. What? You've been real. You've sat in silence. You've let someone see you not offering anything. She looked away, blinking hard. That answer hit too deep. He crouched again, elbows on his knees this time, level with her eyes. I can sit near you, he said, or I could go back to the cot. Your choice. She hesitated, then shifted slightly. You can stay, she whispered. He sat beside her, close, not touching. Their shoulders almost brushed, but he didn't move. Neither did she. For minutes, nothing happened. They just breathed in sync. Her eyes stayed ahead, his stayed downward. And in the quiet, something different took shape. Not survival, not trade. Just presence. Then softly she said, Do you think I'll ever feel clean? He didn't lie. Didn't say yes. He answered, I think you already started. That night, when she returned to the cot, she left the blanket folded aside. She wore the warm wrap. She didn't curl into herself. And when Roland lay down on the mat, he didn't close his eyes right away. Because something had changed. Neither of them said it, but both felt it. For the first time, she hadn't thanked him. And that meant she didn't feel like a guest anymore. Erinya's eyes opened slowly. Morning, or whatever passed for it on Nyrith, 9, filtered through the layered glass of the old relay station's narrow skylight. Faint, amber-tinted light striped the floor. The heater had cycled off an hour ago, and the air held a chill that clung to skin before warmth could return. She sat up, the fabric of the wrap shifting softly across her chest. Her hair, half-dried from yesterday's wash, lay down her back in uneven strands. She listened. No pacing, no rustle of tools, no bootsteps. Her heart ticked up a beat. Roland, she called, voice low but audible. Nothing. She stood quickly, barefoot, stepped through the cloth divider, then exhaled. He was there, on the cot, asleep, not on the floor this time. He hadn't taken her space, just collapsed where he'd been repairing a failed data array. One leg bent, one arm draped over his eyes, his other hand still loosely holding a small diagnostic pad that had gone dim from power save. He wasn't snoring, just breathing steadily, deeply, like someone who hadn't slept in days. She hadn't seen him this way before. Still, exposed, human. She froze in the doorway, unsure whether to step closer or back away. She didn't want to wake him, but she also didn't want to forget the sight. He'd given her that cot, every night, without asking anything. Hadn't so much as stood too close unless she allowed it. Now he was here, and for once, he looked like someone who had let himself rest. Quietly, she crouched near the heater and started boiling water. She didn't know exactly what he preferred in the morning. He never made noise about his routines, but she'd watched enough to guess. She laid out 2 ration trays, found the container of dried grain blend. He did it just right. He stirred behind her, groaned faintly. The cot creaked. She didn't turn. When he finally spoke, his voice was husky, not fully awake. You're up early. You needed the cot, she replied simply. I let you have it. He rubbed his eyes, sat up slowly. I didn't mean to fall asleep. You needed it, she repeated, still not looking back. You help everyone but yourself. He didn't argue. She set the bowls down and only turned when she heard him stand. His hair was tousled, his shirt half untucked. He looked less like the precise, careful man she'd met, and more like someone who'd stopped guarding his edges for once. She slid one bowl toward him across the worktop. He blinked. You cooked. I warmed, she corrected. Let's not overstate it. He gave the smallest smile. Real, not practiced. They sat across from each other, quietly eating. The heater cycled back on. Midway through the meal, she noticed him studying her. She didn't shy away anymore. "What?" she asked. "You look different," he said. She swallowed. "Cleaner, softer." Her breath caught for just a second. "Is that a compliment?" "It's an observation." She smirked lightly, then nodded once. After they ate, he returned to his workbench, and she took the bowls to rinse them. The simple rhythm of the morning felt normal, not survival, just domesticity, basic, grounded. She found herself relaxing too much. When she opened the crate for the drying cloths, a folded strip of fabric near the back caught her eye. A sash, deep red, thin, silk-like, not his. She froze. A memory hit before she could stop it. Pressure, heat, a grip on her wrists. That same color flashing in front of her face while someone whispered lies behind her ear. Her fingers twitched. Her chest tightened. The air thinned. She shut the crate hard. Too hard. Rollin looked up instantly. "You okay?" She turned her back. "Yeah, just dropped something." He didn't press, but she didn't move. He stood slowly, watching her shoulders, the way they'd pulled in tight, the tremble in her arm. He didn't touch her. "Irenia." His voice was low, measured. "I don't keep anything from before," he said. "That red sash, it's from an old ID scanner. Part of a security uniform I salvaged. If it's something else to you, I can get rid of it." She didn't answer, but her posture softened. "You don't have to explain," he added. That got her to turn. "You keep saying that," she said. "That I don't have to explain." "Because you don't. But I want to. And I don't know how to talk like a normal person anymore." He stepped closer, slow, deliberate. "You talk just fine." She looked up at him. Her voice was small. "Sometimes I forget what I used to sound like." He was near enough now that she could feel the warmth of his breath. "Then let me hear you now," he said. She stared at him, not moving, just breathing. Then, voice flat but trembling. "When I saw that sash, I felt like I was back in that room again, tied to the pipe. He had red sleeves. I couldn't scream." Rollin didn't blink. "Did he live?" "Yes." "Still nearby?" "Don't know. Don't care. I stopped looking over my shoulder a long time ago. But my body still remembers." "Then I'll move the cloth," he said quietly. She blinked. "That's it. What else do you need?" Her lip twitched, confused. "I don't know. I just thought you want to fix me." "I'm not here to fix you," he said. "I'm just here." That broke something in her. Not a sob, not tears, but a breath that came too fast. A body that suddenly sat down like her knees had given out. She sat on the floor. He followed, not touching, just matching her level. She turned toward him, suddenly unsure. Then, slowly moved forward, pressed her forehead gently to his shoulder. He didn't move. She stayed there. His arm lifted, hovered, then settled softly over her back, not pulling, just resting. A weight, a boundary. She breathed in. His scent was clean, dust, soap, skin. No perfume, no oil, no thread. "I think I'm afraid of needing this," she said quietly. "Afraid it will be taken." "It won't be," he replied. "How do you know?" "Because I won't take it." She stayed there a long time, and he let her. That night, when she lay down, she didn't need the blanket, just the shirt and the sound of his steady breath on the other side of the divider. The heater cycled, the lights dimmed, and for the first time, she slept without waking. The day passed quietly. Rollin hadn't said much that morning. He'd taken his tools, loaded a fresh data card, and stepped out before sunrise cycle. Not cold, not distant, just quiet, like something was on his mind. Irenia stayed behind. She didn't sleep in. She didn't pace. She didn't clean to fill silence or fold the same blanket twice. Instead, she walked the perimeter of the room, slow, deliberate, touching objects she'd ignored before. A heat regulator's cracked panel. A worn strip of wall where Rollin had etched tally marks in the paint. Some counted salvaged sectors. Others didn't match any pattern. She opened the drawer again. The red sash was gone. In its place sat a folded scrap of off-white cloth, embroidered with 2 letters. S+A. She didn't ask. She didn't need to. It had once belonged to someone else. Someone he'd lost. And yet, he'd chosen to put it there, in the drawer where her memory had surfaced yesterday. Not hidden, just included. She stared at it for a long time before gently closing the drawer. When he returned near dusk, Roland looked at her like he wasn't sure what version of her he'd find. The hesitant guest, the girl who flinched when kindness lasted too long, or the woman from the floor, forehead pressed to his shoulder. She met his eyes before he could speak. "You came back," she said. His reply was simple. "You were here." They didn't speak for the next hour. She heated water. He cataloged sector logs. Their movements matched now. A rhythm had formed between them, one that didn't need to be defined, only continued. Later, when the lights dimmed and the heater cycled on again, Arinya didn't go to the cot. She crossed to where Rollins sat, legs folded, eyes scanning a fractured data string, and sat directly beside him. Close. Their arms brushed. She didn't apologize. He didn't shift away. "You're quiet tonight," she said. "I've been thinking about." His jaw moved slightly. He didn't speak right away. "Then, what happens when you don't need this anymore?" She looked at him slowly. "This, me, this place, these mornings." She thought carefully before answering, then said, "That's not the right question." He didn't reply. She leaned into him, lightly, just enough to rest her head against his upper arm. "I'll always need safety," she said. "But I don't want this because it feeds me. I want this because when I look at you, I stop trying to brace for impact." He stared ahead, breathing shallow. "Still, you think you'll ever stop waiting for the other shoe to drop?" he asked. "I think I already have," she said. "That's what's terrifying." His shoulders shifted as he turned toward her. "I've never had someone stay because they wanted to," he said. She smiled faintly. "Then we're even. I've never stayed because I was allowed to." They sat like that for a while. She leaned. He listened. The silence filled with something steady, unchanging. When she finally stood, she offered him her hand. "Not for anything," she said. "Just to share warmth. It's cold tonight." He looked at the hand. Calloused. Pale. Real. Then he took it. No words. She led him to the cot. They lay down, fully clothed, under the same blanket, backs to the wall, shoulders brushing. Neither tried to pull the other closer. Neither moved away. She tucked her chin beneath his jaw. His arm rested gently over her waist. A shape formed between them. A shape neither of them had ever been given the time, safety, or permission to become. Not lovers. Not strangers. Something slower. She whispered, "I'm not going anywhere." And this time he believed it, because she hadn't said it like a promise. She said it like a fact. Morning settled into the relay room with a steady hum from the vent and a low glow through the skylight. Arinya woke before the heater cycled, pulled on the warm wrap, and moved to the counter. She set water to boil. Her hands no longer shook when she reached for the grain blend. The shirt sleeves still hung long on her wrists, but she folded them back with practiced ease. Rollins stirred on the mat and sat up. His hair was a mess. He didn't apologize for sleeping in. He scanned the room the way he always did, quick and careful, then met her eyes. "You okay?" he asked. "I am," she said. "You?" He nodded once. "Yes." They ate at the worktop. No rush. Midway through, Arinya reached under the counter and lifted a shallow tray she had rinsed and set aside the night before. She placed it near the skylight where the light was strongest. "Herbs," she said. "You mentioned the roof funnel still pulls condensation. I can keep soil damp." Rollin watched her measure the mix, press seeds in with her thumb, and smooth the surface flat. He didn't take over. He passed her the small bulb of reclaimed water and held the tray, steady, while she sprinkled a thin line across the soil. "You've done this before," he said. "In training," she answered. Diplomatic stations grew basic greens inside. It kept crews calm. "It works," he said. "It does." When she finished, she wiped the rim dry and set the tray on a crate under the skylight. The room took the new shape without effort. Food, water, light, a small thing with a future. Rollins set down his bowl. "I checked the outbound records again before sleep," he said, voice even. "You asked me to look for Cyril." Arinya's shoulders tightened, then eased. "And I found a fragmented passenger log from 4 cycles and 3 months ago. Name matches. Species matches. She boarded a relief transport from Dock 6. The The ship registered as Lumen, Arkansas destination was a chain route across minor colonies. No death record attached to the departure, no return entry. The manifest marks her as processed and relocated. Erinya held the edge of the counter. Her breath steadied first, then her hands. So she left Nyrith 9, she said. Yes. Alive. Yes. She closed her eyes for a second. When she opened them, they were wet but calm. Thank you. I can keep tracing, he offered. Slowly. No promises. She shook her head once. Not now. I needed to know she wasn't trapped here. I can live with that. Rollin accepted the answer without pushing. He slid the small paper tag from the console, the one with Erinya and Cyril written across it, and pinned it neatly to a new clip labeled Resolved. Departure confirmed. Erinya watched his hands. Precise. Respectful. She let out a breath she had been holding since the night she asked him to search. They cleaned the bowls together, moving around each other without bumping. Afterward, she pulled the torn wrap from the crate, the coarse brown canvas she had arrived in. She laid on the worktop and studied the frayed seams. I want to fix this, she said. Not to wear it outside. To stop it from owning me. Rollin took out a small repair kit. Needles. Thread. A patch of soft gray cloth cut from an old shirt. He set it down and stepped back. She threaded the needle with steady fingers and began reinforcing the shoulder strap. He held the fabric when she needed tension. They worked without speaking. When she finished, the garment was still humble, still worn, but no longer falling apart. She folded it once and set it in the drawer where the red sash used to be. The sash was gone. In its place lay an off-white cloth embroidered with 2 letters. What is that? She asked. From a home I cataloged last year, he said. The couple who lived there marked linens S and A. They grew herbs on a window ledge and wrote shopping lists in the margins of old maps. When the building failed, no one claimed anything. I kept one cloth to remember that ordinary homes matter. Erinya traced the stitched letters with a fingertip. You put it here on purpose. Yes. I wanted you to know your things belong next to mine. Not hidden. She stood in the quiet after that, absorbing the room as it now was. Repaired fabric in the drawer, a new tray under the skylight, 2 bowls drying by the heater, and space for 2 people to move without bracing. Rollin, she said, steady and clear. I'm staying. Not because I need to survive. Because this is where I choose to be. He didn't smile wide. He didn't make a speech. His shoulders loosened. His chest lowered on a long breath he had been carrying since the first night. Then I'll make room, he said. They spent the afternoon doing it. Rollin shifted the partition 2 hand widths to widen the cot area. Erinya reorganized the lower shelves so her clothes and the blanket had a permanent place. He added a second hook near the door for a second shawl. She folded his spare shirts into even stacks and set one aside on the cot for him to wear tonight. When the heater clicked on after dusk, Erinya brought the basin forward again. Sit, she said. He sat on the edge of the cot. She stood behind him with a damp cloth and combed his hair away from his face, slow and careful, the way he had steadied thread for her earlier. She cleaned the line of dried oil on his jaw, the dust at his neck. He watched his hands rest on his knees. He did not interrupt. Turn, she said. He turned. She wiped his palms. She lifted his left hand and pressed it to her cheek for one long second. Then she lowered it and set the cloth aside. Your turn, she said quietly. He stood and moved in front of her. He reached for her hair. No rush. He combed the long white strands through his fingers, easing out snags without pulling. He adjusted the wrap at her shoulder so the reinforced seam lay flat against her skin. He kept his eyes on the work. When he finished, she did not step back. I'm going to kiss you now, she said. Because I want to. He nodded once. Yes. She lifted her chin. He met her halfway. The kiss landed simple and deliberate. No push. No taking. She rested her hands at his ribs. He set his palms at her waist through the fabric. They stood like that until breath forced a pause. Neither moved away. Stay, she said. I'm here, he answered. They lay down on the cot with a single blanket pulled over both of them. Clothes on, bodies aligned by choice. Heat settled through fabric and skin. When she curled into him, it was not from fear. When he drew her closer, it was not to claim. Tell me something you've never said out loud, she whispered. I was afraid, he said. Afraid that if you healed, you'd leave. Afraid that this would be temporary. Afraid I would go back to being a man who walks past people. You won't, she said. I won't let you. And I'm not leaving. He believed her.